أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Picking up with the legendary military ideology of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the era of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. We have actually covered numerous videos on the legendary military career. Now, the military career of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is part of the makeup of the Sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, it is not necessarily the official career of his prophecy. In other words, when he actually received the revelation, this was his prophetic career, if you may. And what we know as the Madani period is the military career of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that was covered in the initial series. And from there we moved on to the legendary military legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the era of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Then we moved on to the legendary military government of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is the era of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. We then covered the legendary military empire of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the era of Sayyidina Uthman ibn al-Affan. And now we are at the legendary military ideology of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Picking up from page number 462, 3.7.8. Checking on matters to do with clothing and appearance, it was narrated that Abu Matar said, and I quote, "I went out of the mosque and there was a man calling out behind me, 'Lift up your lower garment, for that is cleaner for your garment and more pleasing to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and cut your hair if you are a Muslim.'" End quote. Yeah, well, a lot of unfortunate Muslims and they're here today. But moving along, 3.7.9, detaining evildoers and mischief makers. Ali radiallahu anhu would pursue evildoers and mischief makers, and if he caught one of them, he would detain them. Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf narrated that Abdul Malik ibn Umair said, and I quote, "If there was among the tribe of or people a promiscuous or immoral man, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu would detain him. If he had wealth, he would spend on his maintenance from his wealth. If he did not have any wealth, he would spend on him from the public treasure of the Muslimin." And end quote. He also said, and I quote, "Protect the people from his evil and spend on him from their treasures." End quote. 3.7.10. A lot of them sit right at the large buildings, tall buildings that they live in and they stay in. 3.7.10. I guess the Saudis, or I should say the royal family, they did manage to detain a lot of them at the Ritz-Carlton or something like that. A lot of the princes, millionaires. So maybe they were following his example. Allah Ta'ala knows best. Warning against not spending. Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said, "The miser is the one who seeks to hasten poverty and lives in this world like the poor. He will be brought to account in the hereafter on the basis that he was rich." I'm going to go over that one more time. Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said, "The miser," meaning one who despises spending money, "is the one who seeks to hasten poverty." This individual seeks to hasten poverty and lives in this world like the poor. What he means by that, in all fairness, the first indication or the first statement, this individual hastens poverty, meaning that what he is refusing to spend of is becoming more and more and more of a dependency for him. He's depending more on that. So he is, and that means poor. And he also says and lives in this world like, well, that's why he says that is the reason why he lives in the world like a poor person. He will be brought to account in the hereafter on the basis that he was rich. And if anyone has any misconceptions about the concept in Surah Al-Humaza, which is between Surah Al-Asr and Surah Al-Fil, this is what it's talking about, harboring and, holding on to wealth. Al-Hakum al-Takathur, another surah, which is the surah after Surah Al-Asr. Same thing. 3.7.11, Ali radiallahu anhu's call to prayer. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib paid a great deal of attention to the matter of prayer. He would walk through the streets calling prayer, prayer, and he would wake the people for the dawn prayer in this way. Al-Hasan taught us that on the day he was stabbed, he went out from his house. When he came out of the door, he called out, "O people, prayer, prayer." He did that every day, carrying his stick. Two men intercepted him, and Ibn Maljam struck him on the head. 3.7.12. Paying attention to public works, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu ordered the building of waterways in the wadis and sewers, lest the road of the Muslims be blocked. 3.7.13, the innovation of the storytellers and Ali radiallahu anhu's effort to fight it. The innovation of the storytellers appeared during the time of Ali radiallahu anhu. It was denounced by the companions and the tabi'un, meaning those who succeeded the companions of Rasoolu'Allahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Muhammad ibn Wada' narrated that Musa ibn Muawiyah said, and I quote, Ibn Mahdi narrated to us from Sufyan, from Ubaidullah ibn Nafi, that he said stories were not told at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar and Uthman radiallahu anhum. The first time stories were told was during the turmoil, the murder of Uthman, which led to the murder of Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. The storytellers were preachers who held gatherings for preaching in competition with the gatherings of knowledge. They exhorted the people by telling stories, tales narrated from Jewish sources, and so on, which had no basis or were fabricated or were beyond the comprehension of the masses. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu banned them because they started telling the people about weird things and ambiguous matters and things that were beyond their comprehension and of which they had no knowledge. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu permitted those who had strong Sharia knowledge to tell stories in order to exhort people, in order to get them moved about al-Islam. Ali radiallahu anhu's life in society was a call to Tawheed and striving against polytheism. He was keen to teach people the names and attributes of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, connect their hearts to Him alone, remind them of the blessings of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and urge them to be grateful for them. He radiallahu anhu was also persistent in his efforts to eliminate any traces of pre-Islamic ignorance, using all kinds of means such as speeches, exhortations, poetry, and proverbs. He did not live a life that was remote and removed from the people, Rather, he lived among them on the basis of his good attitude, manners, and knowledge. 3.8. The police force at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. When Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu was appointed as the new Caliph, the police force was one of the important departments in the state. There are many stories and reports that speak of the role of the police force at the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. For example, Asbagh ibn Nabata narrated that a young man complained to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amirul Mu'mineen, radiallahu anhu, about a group of people. He said, and I quote, "These people went out with my father on a journey. They returned, but my father did not return. I asked them about him, and they said that he died. I asked them about his wealth, and they said that he did not leave anything, although he had a great deal of wealth with him. referred the matter to Shurah, and he asked them to swear an oath and let them go. End quote. Ali radiallahu anhu called the police. He appointed 2 policemen for each one of them and instructed them not to let any of them get close to one another and not to let anyone speak to them. He called his scribe. Then he called one of the men and said, "Tell me about the father of this young man. What day did he go out? Where did you halt? How was your journey? How did he die? How did he lose his wealth?" End quote. He also asked him about those who washed him and buried him, who led the funeral prayer for him, where he was buried, and so on. And the scribe wrote it all down. Then Ali radiallahu anhu said takbir, and everyone present said takbir. Allahu Akbar is the takbir. The other accused person had no knowledge about what was going on, but he thought that their companion had confessed about them. After the first one had been taken away, Ali radiallahu anhu summoned another and asked him the same questions. He carried on like that until he had heard what they all had to say, and he found out that each one of them said something different than his companion. Then he ordered that the first one be brought back, and he said, and I quote, "O enemy of Allah, I am aware of your stubbornness and lies because of what I heard from your companions. Nothing can save you from punishment except telling the truth." End quote. Then he ordered that he be imprisoned. And he said takbir, and everyone present said takbir. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. When the other person realized that what was happening, they did not doubt that their companion had testified against them. Then he called another one of them and threatened him, and he said, "O Amir al-Mu'minin, by Allah, I was not happy with what they did." End quote. Then he called all of them, and they admitted what had happened. He summoned the one who was in prison, and it was said to him, and open quote, "Your companions have confessed, and nothing will save you except telling the truth." End quote. So he admitted everything that the others had admitted to. He forced them to give back the money, and he took blood money from them for the one who they had slain or killed. Inshallah, we will stop it here on page number 465. Again, and point being is that police force in Islam took place prior to what the majority of people tend to believe. The police force, yes, Ali radiallahu anhu, as every Khalifa before him actually, were involved in modifying, improving, because this is the role of the leader, of the Amir, the commander of the believers. However, the establishment or initiation of it, we went over that in the era of the Prophet ﷺ's legendary military government and how it came about in that manner. However, we also have within the legacy of Rasoolu'Allahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself patrolled at night, and really that's where the whole idea of policing came from, because the bandits used to get really busy at night, and there needed to be a patrol unit that will keep eyes out at night. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسم ربك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.